Hey, this video is going to go over metric prefixes. So we're going to be on this page of the packet. Let me go ahead and pull it up here. And that way you guys can follow along with me. All right, so first off, we use these metric prefixes on what we call our base units. For example, we can have grams, which is just a unit of mass that we abbreviate with a G. We can have seconds for time that we abbreviate with an S. We can have meters for length that we abbreviate with an M. We could have liters for volume that is represented by a capital L. We have, watts, we have calories, and a bunch of other units that we'll talk about as the year goes on. These are kind of the most common here. What you're going to notice, though, is that all of these are represented by just a single letter. All right, and these are going to fit right here on this chart here. This is our base unit, okay? It's just a single letter. There's no prefix assigned to this. And this, so that's why there's no symbol here. This can be represented, like I said, by grams, meters, liters, seconds, whatever, okay? There's not a prefix, so we'll not put anything in that little column, okay? Now we have different prefixes that we can use to kind of further qualify what our value is. So this big M is going to be mega, and then we have kilo, hecta, deca, this is deci, centi, milli, micro, and nano. So all of these ones up here, these ones are large values and they represent a large factor of our base unit. These ones down here are very small values and represent a small fraction of our base unit. So 10 to the, that's just kind of telling us how big or how small that prefix is. So this is 10 to the 6th, this is 10 to the 3rd, 10 to the 2nd, 10 to the 1st. And because these ones are all fractions, these all have negative exponents. So 10 to the negative 1, 10 to the negative 2, 10 to the negative 3, 10 to the negative 6, and 10 to the negative 9. Okay, now the prefixes we would put in front of the unit. So if we have kilograms, for example, we would write that as kg. If we had a nanosecond, we would represent that as ns. So now you can see that we have two letters when we have a prefix, whereas before we only had single letters. So the first letter tells you what the prefix is. The second letter tells you what the unit is that we're talking about. So K represents the kilo, G represents the grams. We're going to be moving back and forth between these different values. Okay, so before I go over the problems below this, let me teach you a mnemonic device. We say Kingwood, hi, does. This is going to be our base unit. So it could be math, it could be science, it could be grammar, whatever it is that we're talking about. That's our base unit. I'll put base down here. During, whoopsie, class Mondays. Move that. Okay, so that's our mnemonic device. It tells you how many times to move the decimal point and in which direction. So you'll notice it leaves off mega, micro, and nano. That's because this was 10 to the 6th, this was 10 to the negative 6, and 10 to the negative 9. So they had big leaps in the numbers, whereas everything from kilo to milli represents an increase or a decrease of a factor of 10. So if you move this way, for example, from grams to kilograms, you would move the decimal point to the left. If you move this way on the sentence, you would move your decimal point to the right. So example, if you're going from kilometers to millimeters, you would move your decimal point to the right. So let me go ahead and scroll down here, if I can, so that we can go over how to do these conversions, okay? So again, the first letter tells us what the prefix is. So this is millimeters, and this is decameters. So to go from milli, which is 10 to the -3, to deca, which is 10 to the 1, we have to move our decimal point 4 times. And we're going from somewhere small to somewhere big, so we're going to move it 4 times to the left. So 1, 2, 3, 4. It would go right there, 0.83516. Okay. Here we're going from micro to milli, and we could look at those exponents to see how many times we have to move it, because micro is 10 to the -6, milli is 10 to the -3. So we have to move it, that's a difference of 3 times. So we would move it 3 times, 1, 2, 3 to the left, because we're going from something really small to something a little bigger. So it'd be 0. How many times do we move it? 1, 2, 3. So 101525. Here we're going from deci to milli. And if you look at your chart, that's a difference of 2 rows. So we're going to move it 2 times. And because we're going to a smaller value, we move it 2 times to the right, and it would be 432. I just want to point out at number 4 here that this doesn't have a prefix. It's a single letter. That means it's our base unit. We're going from a base unit to nanoseconds. Nano is 10 to the -9. So we have to move it 9 times to the right, because we're getting to a smaller number. So I gotta write it up here because I'm gonna run out of room because I write big. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, and that's all you have to do, just move your decimal point. So figure out how many times you have to move your decimal point and then in which direction, okay? If you're going down the chart, you wanna move it to the right. If you're going up the chart, you want to move it to the left. And again, that mnemonic device I showed you does a good job of showing which direction to move it to as well, if you commit that to memory. So give those other ones 5 through 9 a try and let me know how you do. Thanks.